Hey, it's me, James, here with another episode in my ongoing series where I talk about my study and practice of cartomancy using playing cards. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, I'd like to say welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing one of the spreads that I use every day without fail. I love it so much. Now, I didn't create this spread. I found it in a book on Gypsy Cards, and I loved it so much that not only do I use it with Gypsy Cards, but I use it with every system that I work with. So I've used it with playing cards, which I've demonstrated in this video. I've used it with tarot, oracle cards, Lenormand, Kipper, the whole nine, right? And it's called, simply enough, the Daily Spread. So without further ado, let's get to the table where I'll be talking more about the aspects of the Daily Spread and showing you how I work with it in two ways. And here we are with the cards on the table, and the deck that I'm going to be using for this video is one of my favorite playing card decks, and that is the Bicycle Vintage Classic deck. So now, as I said in the opening, I'm going to be sharing a spread that I use on a daily basis, and I use it with a variety of different types of decks and systems. So the book that I got the deck from, because it is not one of my own creation, is this book right here. And this is Gypsy Cards in the New Light. It is by Vesna Balaban Zel. Now this is, of course, a book that talks about how to work with Gypsy cards. But I like the spread so much that I use it with other types of card decks and systems. I use it with tarot, I use it with oracle cards, I use it with Lenormand, Kipper, and the like. So for me, it's a wonderful way to work with cards where you want to work with more than one card, and you want to, especially if you're studying or learning how to work with cards, how to connect them. Okay, so the spread consists of 4 cards, so I'm going to run through it first, and then I'll give you an example. So the 4 cards are laid out from left to right in a line, similar to, if you're no stranger to my videos, when I'm working with a line of 5. Kind of the same thing, only we're working with 4 cards instead of 5. Okay, so now you want to either pull your cards at the beginning of your day, and then if you do that, there's 2 different types or variations of this spread. So if you work with it during the day, you get to consider this to be like a prophetic view. That's what it's referenced as in the book. If you work with it during the day, or you wanted to know about how your day will go, this is a prophetic view, which means that you're just getting a glimpse of what could happen in the day as the day unfolds, okay? If you choose to do it at the end of your day, or if you're doing it the next day and you want to know what happened in the previous day, this is 2 different ways to learn how to read cards, then you're doing what's called the retrospective view, which means that you're taking a look back, right? So the prophetic is taking a look ahead, and the retrospective view is about taking a look backwards, right? So let's say, since this video is being recorded on March the 1st, I could either do a reading for March the 1st, how the day will unfold, or I could do a retrospective view and take a look at what happened on February the 28th. And I should say the year that I'm filming this. So this is being filmed on March the 1st, 2023, right? For those who may find it at a later point in time, right? So you can either do a look ahead or a look back, right? And either way, this is a really good way for you to learn the cards. Okay, so then you would just look at the cards from left to right. And here's the other interesting thing, right? So the first card in the first position not only opens the line up, but it also serves as a time frame. Each card is a particular time period, possibly in the day. So the first card represents midnight to 6 a.m. Right? So this could be anything that happens between midnight and 6 a.m. Right? Okay, next card. Same thing. So this could be something that happens between 6 a.m. and 12 noon. Then the next card would be from 12 noon to 6 p.m. And then the last card would be 6 p.m. to 12 midnight. So you have each card representing a 6-hour period. There are 4 cards, so it represents 24 hours in the day, right? So there's a number of ways you could read this. You could either see what the cards are saying overall, or if you really want to drill down and look at time periods, then you could also do that, right? Another thing that the authors in the Gypsy card book shared is that you could connect the cards. So for instance, they gave examples where they took card 1 and combined it with card 3 and card 2 and combined it with card 4. But, you know, as I say with all things when it comes to reading playing cards, as a practitioner, you get to dictate what your practice is going to look like and what you do within your practice, right? So you can do any of these things, none of these things, you get to decide, right? Okay, so now having said that, I'm going to pick the cards up because I don't want to use these particular cards. I want to actually walk through the spread. So I'm going to take the entire deck. I'm going to shuffle the cards. And since I'm saying that this is being filmed on March the 1st, 2023, I have not done any readings for myself for today. So I'm going to run through how I would work with the cards on a daily basis. And the beauty about this is that you don't have to set a particular intention or ask a particular question other than, you know, what is the possibility for this day. And then you could just shuffle the cards in a way that's comfortable for you. If you're no stranger to these videos, you know I like to shuffle in this manner. I sometimes do what's called the riffle shuffle. And then when I'm working with other decks, like my Oracle card decks, because I do work with Oracles, I sometimes shuffle like that because of their size. So I've learned, as a result of that, to shuffle the cards this way, regardless the deck or the system that I'm working with. You know, and of course there's the overhand shuffling. Whatever way is shuffling is easiest for you or you're most comfortable with, go ahead and do that. Now, also too, one of the things I like to do is I like to cut the deck. So when I'm working with the deck for myself, I usually cut it towards me. So I'm going to kind of do that here on camera because I'm asking about my day. Now I'm going to take the cards, I'm going to fan them out because that's the other thing I like to do. Once I cut the cards and put them back together, I like to pick 4. So I'm looking at the fan, I'm just going to pick 4 cards that are immediately getting my attention, and a lot of them are over here on the right hand side. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I have the 4 cards selected. I'm going to take the remainder of the deck up because I will not need it, because there won't be a need to do clarification cards or anything like that. Okay, so now let's put these back in a line. Alright, so here we have the 4 cards, right? Okay. And the last thing I forgot with the spread is that the 4th card also has another purpose besides, you know, being at the end of the line and also highlighting a period between 6 p.m. and 12 midnight. It is also known as the basic card of the day. So it plays an important role in that it can determine the theme of the day. You know, so you want to take a look at, while the first 3 cards that come before it are just as important, but the last card itself can tell you what the theme of the day possibly could be. So that's another aspect of this spread that I like. Okay, so now having said that, because I didn't want to leave that out, I realized once I picked the cards up that I forgot to say that part. Okay, so now, first card, I'm just going to turn it over, and what I usually do is I just look at the cards one by one. Okay, so now the first card is the King of Clubs. Next card, we have the Queen of Spades. Okay, next card, it's the 7 of Clubs. And then the last card is the 5 of Spades. Okay, so now, when you're working with cards and you're using more than one, you want to start noticing connections. So the first thing that I notice is that we have all black cards, right? So we have a combination of clubs and spades. Now, the other thing that I noticed is there's a pattern. We have a club, then a spade, then a club, then a spade, right? So it represents this kind of up and down or back and forth kind of situation, right? Now, for me, the suit of clubs represents work or business, and then spades, for me, is the most challenging suit. It can represent, problems, troubles, blocks, obstacles. So the first thing I might think of for the day is that there may be some problems with getting some work done. Now, so I work two jobs out of the house. So it happens to be my day off from both. I have made a conscious choice and effort because I usually don't get videos done. And it's been a minute since I did my last one because of my working schedule. So I have made the decision to take at least one day off a week from both jobs. And so that it just happens to be today being Wednesday. So I've made a conscious choice on that. So that could be highlighted in the fact that I am not working either job, and that there may be situations that are taking place in those working environments that are problematic, and I may hear something about that tomorrow when I go into one job or both, right? So there's that. It could also be that because clubs can also represent business, it could just be talking about, I may be having issues with my own business, and right now I'm shooting a video, so I'm not doing any client work. So it could be talking about that. The other thing it could be talking about is that anything that I have been setting an intention on doing that would be considered work. Like, not necessarily where you punch a clock or you're doing business, but it could just be like things that I said, I want to work on that, or I want to work on this, that kind of thing, or I want to put some effort into a situation. The swords would indicate that I might not get as much done as I would like because they're creating blocks between the two suits. The two clubs cards, excuse me, right? So there's that to consider. Now, let's start taking a look at the individual cards. So now the King of Clubs could be me, because when I'm reading playing cards especially, and it's a face card and it's a male face card, depending on the situation, I tend to look at that as me. So this could be me being the business person, right? Because I am, in some regards, self-employed because I have my own side hustle, right? So this could be me in terms of that. And the interesting thing is that he's looking, directional cue, to the left where there is no card, right? So that could just be me not having any business to attend to when it comes to my own business. Although, in truth, when you have your own business, there's always something to attend to or something to do. But it could just be like, I don't have any client work to do today because he's not facing a card, right? And also, too, the Queen of Spades, which is the next face card, they're looking in opposite directions, right? So that's two people who are not seeing each other for whatever reason, right? So there is that, but I would tend to look at this as me. Now, another meaning that I have for this card, the King of Clubs, is that it can represent, going with the idea that clubs represents work or business, that this could be like a boss, a manager, somebody in a supervisory position, the head of business, that kind of thing, like a CEO, boss, supervisor, manager, something like that, right? So it could serve a twofold purpose. Now, I will say this. At midnight, I was still at my one job. I didn't get out of that job until 12:30-ish, right? So technically, at that point, I was still on the job with my own boss. Now, in that particular case, my immediate supervisor is a woman. So that could be, this could be me, and then this could be her at that time, right? So, but, past midnight, I was still at the one job, and then I came home, and I was up until about, I think 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I tend to do that when I get home late like that. I'm one of those where, this is just an aside, but I'm one of those who gets really wired up, and it's hard for me to kind of come back down, so I usually don't get settled to feel like I'm ready to go to bed until like 3 o'clock in the morning. Occupational hazard, okay. But I don't want to get too far off topic. Okay, so that could be the King of Clubs in this regard. Okay, so now let's move on to the Queen of Spades. Now, for me, this, of course, would be a woman just because it's a queen. Now, so far today, because now this is now the 6 a.m. to 12 noon period, right? So I'm filming this, it's now 4:34 p.m. So at this time in my day, I haven't had any contact with a woman except for someone that I did respond to on Instagram, right? So interesting thing. I didn't have a face-to-face with the person, but so if this is me, and this is the Queen of Spades, I did have a face-to-face with the person who DM'd me asking me if I interpret dreams, and she wanted some insight on a dream that she had, and so I told her that she could go ahead and DM me the dream, and then I spent that time before I had to leave the house to do other things, because I did have errands to run, right? Clubs, errands to run. But in between that, I took the time to DM her back with a message regarding her dream. Okay? So that could be the one person that I had contact with, but I wasn't face-to-face contact with. And see, that's metaphorical, right? You could take the visual and go, okay, well, it looks like these two people are in disagreement, but it could also be, just from a visual standpoint, a person that you don't actually see. You have contact with, but you don't actually see, right? That kind of thing. So that would be where I might place the Queen of Spades. Now, interestingly enough, she is looking to the Seven of Clubs, which is the next card. So now the Seven of Clubs is a card for me that can represent improvement. The seven in playing card Cartomancy, for me, one of its meanings can be improvement, right? So here we have this idea of improvement, but with either work or business, right? So even though I said, oh, I really haven't had much business on my side hustle today, that could change as the day goes on, because now this is in the time frame between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m., right? So it could be that there's going to be some work or some improvement, excuse me, with work or business. And as I'm talking about this out loud, I do realize that one of the things I had made my mind to do was to get back to somebody who had sent me an email regarding a Lenormand reading that I did, and she sent me a follow-up email regarding the reading. There were some questions that she had about the reading, and I have not responded to her yet. So I'm coming back to this, and I'm just now remembering that, right? So I may take time later on in my day to get back to her with that. But the chief meaning for me for the Seven of Clubs, it represents putting your nose to the grindstone, which means at some level there's some work that needs to get done, and in order for me to get it done, I need to just make the decision to do it and put my nose to the grindstone. So I'm just going to keep this real. I gave myself the idea that I was going to do so many things in my day, right? Because I'm like not working either job, and I said, oh, I'm going to do so much today. And then I threw in, I'm going to make a video in the mix, right? And so I thought, okay, so I kind of went back and forth on that. And then I just said, okay, if I'm going to make the video, let me make the decision to make the video, because I could easily get distracted. So I was having lunch and watching TV, and then I realized that one of my favorite Mission Impossible movies, and this is the Tom Cruise franchise, named Fallout, Mission Impossible Fallout, was on, and I loved that movie, and I haven't seen it in years. So I was tempted to kind of sit back, relax, and watch the movie, but I've seen it before, so I'm like, okay, I could be using that time to make the video. So this is like the Seven of Clubs moment here in my day, right? Because I made the decision to just put my nose to the grindstone and get the video done, right? Okay, so there's that. But now, the other thing here, the 7 is also a very spiritual number, right? So this could be about spiritual work or spiritual business, and I'm doing my own personal spiritual work in a way. I'm sharing it with the rest of you, but I'm also doing it for myself when I'm talking about working with my cards on a daily basis. That is part of my spiritual practice. It's part of my daily spiritual practice. So I'm doing that right now, right? It could also be like later on I may decide that I want to also meditate or do some journaling or some other spiritual practice later in the day. So I think that's what the Seven of Clubs is talking about as well, right? Okay, and so now here we have the last card. So now here we have the 5 of spades. And so usually for me, again, spades can be about problems, troubles, could be obstacles or some kind of block, right? The 5 is a number of change for me. And so it could just be about, if I go with the idea here that spades for me can also represent the mind and decision making, this could be the change of mind card, right? So I just call the 5 of spades a change of mind card, going with the idea that the 5 represents change, spades represents the mind. Put those together, you get a change of mind or a change in mindset, right? So even though I'm thinking like, oh, I've got so much I want to do, something may happen where I either don't get to everything that I thought I was going to do, or I just change my mind about the need to put my nose to the grindstone and be as productive as I think I could be, right? So this card would suggest that there's some sort of change with that. The other thing about the 5 of spades is that this is a card that talks about a breakup, a split, or even a divorce. And that brings me back to the Queen of Spades, because the Queen of Spades can also represent somebody who was single, divorced, or widowed. So we have a theme here. Remember, I look for patterns. So we had a pattern with the suits and the way that they show up, right? One after the other, after the other, after the other. But we also have this idea about divorce in mind too. So it could be that, you know, as the day progresses, I may hear from someone, particularly a woman, who may be single, who may be divorced, you know, on her own to some degree, because the 5 of spades can also represent independence, right? This could be about like standing on your own 2 feet and independence. The other thing that could be talking about here, and I'm not sure about this, again, because it's the potential for the day, right? The day has not completely unfolded, right? So the spades can also represent somebody who works either in medicine or government or law, right? And then going with this, then this could be about somebody who maybe is either undergoing a surgical procedure, or if I combine these two, now remember, these 2 cards can be combined, 1 and 3, and then 2 and 4 can be combined, right? So this may be somebody who's a surgeon, or somebody who's looking towards the idea of having some sort of surgical procedure done, right? So there's that. Now the other thing I could take into account is that the king and queen may be people that I hear about, or you know, something that I read or something that I see on TV. Has nothing to do with me, but the events that they are connected to or involved in or associated with, if I hear about it or I read about it, that becomes part of my day, right? So these cards may not necessarily be me and people that I have direct contact with, or in the case of the Instagrammer, indirect contact with. Then it could just be somebody who, you know, is going through something, and I just happen to either see it or hear about it, right? So you have to be willing to kind of just keep all possibilities open when you're doing your daily card work. Not everything is going to be directly about you. You may get news or information that pertains to somebody else, but because it comes into your world, it becomes a part of your day, right? Okay. So now remember, this is the basic card of the day. So this could be, like I said, if I go with change my mind, I went through that several times today, going back and forth about what I was actually going to do in terms of work or effort. What was I going to put work or effort into today? So that makes sense in that regard, right? But it could also be about me having a day off. This is about standing on your own 2 feet and having a sense of independence, right? So it could just be a matter of like me being my own agent, so to speak, meaning like it's up to me to decide what I'm going to get done. And in the end, you know, I won't have anybody looking over my shoulder, you know, seeing if I got what I said I was going to do accomplished or not, right? So, but we still have time, because it is still the 6 p.m. to 12 midnight period has not happened yet. But anyway, so that is a way to kind of work with a daily spread. Then, of course, if you do it in the morning, then what you want to do is you want to come back to the cards. You know, if you have the time to also journal them or write down some quick notes for yourself about what the cards meant for you in the moment, and then go back and review the cards and then journal what actually happened. This is another way for you to learn the cards, because if you're working with a string of cards, you may see patterns, you may see a certain card shows up every time a particular event happens, and that becomes a meaning for the card for yourself, right? Because it's about not just working with what the cards mean in other people's frames of reference, but it's also about you working with the cards to establish your own set of meanings, right? Based on your real world, everyday living experiences, right? I'm always harping on that, right? Because a lot of people say, well, how did you come up with that meaning for this card or that meaning for that card? It's just based on life. You know, if it has a habit of showing up and it shows up in terms of tracking, every time a particular event unfolds in my life, then that becomes a meaning for the card. And it's unique to me because I've lived it, right? So, again, this is the daily spread and one way to work with it. So now I just had this idea as I thought I was wrapping up. What I'll do is I'll do another one and we'll focus on the energy of yesterday. So this way you could see an idea of something prophetic, meaning like we're taking a look ahead. But now let's take a look back. Okay, I'm back and I'm adding another segment to this video. I thought I was just going to do one, but let's just play with the daily spread again, but let's keep the intention on the retrospective view. So, again, this video is being filmed on March the 1st. It is now 4:45 p.m. and I'm going to take a look at February the 28th, 2023 and see what the cards have to tell me about what has already transpired. Now, this is interesting because you've already lived the day, or in this particular case, I've already lived the day. So I will be able to see events in the cards because the day has already passed, right? Okay. So now, again, this is a great thing. You could either do this, like, since it's March the 1st, you could either do it for the day before. If you want to do your daily card work, you could do this for the day before. Or if you're doing it at the end of the day, then you could say, okay, tell me what I need to know about my day, or show me aspects of my day in the cards, right? That kind of thing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the cards. And again, you know, this is just the way I like to shuffle them. You shuffle them in the way that is most comfortable or helpful for you. Okay. So again, I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards towards me because this is for me. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the cards and fan them out. And while you're shuffling and picking your cards, remember, it's always good to focus on the intention. So now, the intention is that I'm going to allow these cards to represent yesterday and to see what they might share. And again, all the cards were on the right side of the fan. There are my 4 cards, okay? I'm going to go ahead and pick them up, or the rest of the deck up, I should say. I won't need that. I'm going to line these up. Alright, so now remember, this is for the day before. I'm doing a retrospective view. Okay, so the first card is 2 of diamonds. Okay, then we have Ace of spades. Okay, then we have 10 of diamonds. And then we have Queen of diamonds. Okay. So now if I was just taking a look, doing my quick analysis, I'm noticing that 3 of the 4 cards are from the suit of diamonds. So the suit of diamonds for me represents the element of earth, but it also can represent material matters, right? So it could just be a focus on things like either money or finance, right? Because diamonds for me can represent money. It could also be career or physical well-being. All those things are under the realm of diamonds for me, right? And we have 1 spade card. Okay. So now, first card, 2 of diamonds. For me, the 2 of diamonds represents money being exchanged, right? Because suit of diamonds can represent money, and then the 2 represents either something that's either being shared or exchanged, right? So there's that. So now I will say, yesterday, one of my jobs, I got a direct deposit from that job into my bank account, right? So, and that usually happens as the day switches over. So because I have direct deposits usually around midnight, And remember now, this is midnight to 6 a.m., so that those funds were being deposited into my bank account, right? So that is, for me, is about, an exchange taking place, right? I got compensated for work done from one of my employers. So there's that. Yeah, and like I said, between midnight to 6 a.m., not that much transpires. So, yeah, so I might just go with that if I'm looking at the events that took place during the day, right? Remember, this is retrospective, so the day has already happened, and I'm using the cards to kind of think, oh yeah, that card could fit that, so forth and so on, right? Okay, so that was that. Then the Ace of Spades. Now, the Ace of Spades is perfect because yesterday, during this time period, I posted on my Instagram page or my social media platforms, and since this is a video for YouTube, I did post this on my community tab, and there's no mistakes about this because you all can go and check the community tab. But I have been working on and off with a oracle deck called the Mitchell Cartomancy deck, and it is a playing card deck concept. I like that. And so, but the card I posted was the Ace of Spades. You cannot make this stuff up. And I posted that yesterday morning, and that would fit the time frame because this is 6 a.m. to 12 noon, and I did it before I went into my first of two jobs because I worked both my jobs yesterday. But I did post that online, so I love that. So the Ace of Spades can also represent needing to make some kind of decision, right? So it could have been, me, once I got paid, make the decision about what I was going to do. And as I say that, there is a bill I wanted to pay, and I haven't done it yet. So I'm glad I'm doing this, hindsight being 2020, because it makes me remember that I need to go ahead and pay that bill online. I haven't done it yet, but I set the intention that I was going to do that, right? So, but the Ace of Spades, for me, the biggest thing in retrospect, I would say, is that it's talking about me actually posting the Ace of Spades card on my social media platforms, right? So, and in that, I will say that for me, the Ace of Spades not only can mean that a decision needs to be made, it's also known as the Order of the Magi card. And so with that, it could represent, secret societies, or that you are delving more into metaphysics or esoteric or occult knowledge or wisdom, or that if you are a magical practitioner, that you are doing something within your magical practice, right? So there is that aspect of it. All of that you'll find listed on the post. If you go to the community tab, you'll see the card and you can read the post, right? So there's that. Then here we have the 10 of diamonds. So for me, that just represents, being at work. I did go to both my jobs yesterday. So this card is known as a career card, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say that either job is what I'm determining my career, but the second of the two jobs, I actually have been there for a number of years. I left for a period of time and then I went back, but when I was there the first go around, I did look at it as like potentially a career because just of the length of time that I was there, right? So I was there, my first stint was 20 years, then I took a 6-year break, and I've been back now for 3. So it's kind of like a career, right? The 10 of diamonds can also represent, a lot of money or something that's a lot of value, or an investment that pays off in a big way, right? This is about success, right? So the other thing that happened yesterday is that I was having a migraine experience. So it started on Monday, right? Today's Wednesday, yeah. So it started on Monday, and it didn't resolve itself probably until sometime today, but the pain was lessening as the day went on. So I was achieving maybe more success with the pain lessening as the day went on yesterday. So I don't know if you can hear that in the background. There's people doing lawn work or yard work out there, and I think a blower's going on. If you hear that, I apologize. But it seems like these days, like whenever I decide I want to make a video, somebody wants to mow their lawn or do something where they create noise. So I apologize for that if you can hear it. Okay, so that's how I would look at the 10 of diamonds kind of thing. But both these cards being money card, it could just represent like, the money being deposited into my account, and then I have more money, more wealth than I did prior to, right? And then we have the basic card of the day, which is the Queen of Diamonds. Okay, so now at this point, going with hindsight being 2020, and this is about things in retrospect, this could be my boss. You know, I have actually both my bosses on both my jobs are women. So this could be one, the other, or both, right? So, but yeah, but at 6 p.m. to 12 midnight, I was at my second job. So I would put this probably with my second boss. And yeah, so she has been with the company that I'm working for long term. She's in management, right? So here we have a person in an authority, Queen's holding a title, right? So that could be a position of authority. And then she is looking at the company that we work for as her career. You know, she's been in management for a very long time now. So this could be just a referencing her and her career with the company, right? That kind of thing. But this could just be me working with her, right? The other thing that I do know about the Queen of Diamonds, and I don't have one of these types of people in my life, but I'm just sharing this, is that sometimes she can represent someone's mother-in-law or a stepmother. And usually she may come up when somebody wants to kind of ask you for money, right? So there's that, because we have two other money cards. But now, since this is just me and I'm not reading for the general public, that I would put this with, you know, me being at work with my particular supervisor that night. And we get on really well. You know, I would like to think with the diamonds that, you know, this is a way of the cards reminding me that she has a lot of value in me as an associate, you know, somebody that she works with, you know. You know, without sounding like I'm tooting my own, you know, tooting my own horn, because you all don't know this, but that she places a lot of value in our working relationship. I will leave it at that. Okay. So, but the biggest thing that I see here that I'm tickled is that the money being deposited into my account, me accumulating more money because now my account has a larger balance than it did before, right? With the increase from the 2 to the 10, right? That's increase, right? If we remember now, connecting these two cards, and then but the Ace of Spades is the one really stands out because I did post that card on my social media post. Okay, so those are two ways that you could work with the daily spread. Remember, in our first segment, it was about prophetic view, looking ahead, asking the cards to show you aspects of the day, but also, too, setting the intention and be willing to just live life and come back to the cards and see how the cards reflected your real life everyday experience, yeah? And the same thing with the retrospective view. You're taking a look back. So now you've already lived the day. How are the cards lining up and showing you aspects of that day, right? So I'm wrapping up. This is James and Mitchell. Thank you so much for sharing this space here with me as I walk through one of my favorite everyday spreads to work with. If you try it, come back. Let me know in the comments what system you used and what were the results, that kind of thing. I would love to hear about it. So again, this is James and Mitchell signing off, and I will see you again, kind of, sort of. I will see you again in our next video together. And until then, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and take care.